Hey there guys, I'm SonicGhost and welcome back to some more Let's Play Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Last time we made the long and arduous climb here to the top of Stone Tower. In this episode, we're ready to go ahead and make our way into our next dungeon here in the game, Stone Tower Temple. But before we do so, I want to go ahead and mention that in between episodes, I went back to the bank in Clocktown and deposited all my rupees into the bank. I figured going to our next dungeon here with 0 rupees in our wallet is better than going in with 300, as that was kind of close to being the max amount, and if we have a lot of rupees being gathered here in this dungeon, I figured let's make some room. So I went ahead and deposited all my money. But now with that done, we're ready to go ahead and make our way into the dungeon here, and we see we have 3 switches around the area, and if we press these switches, we'll have our blocks here in front of the dungeon entrance move out towards us. But they are pressure sensitive switches, which means that yes, you have to play the LG Emptiness 3 more times in order to get into this dungeon. 1 time per form to make 3 forms on these switches, which is a little tedious. 1 more slap in the face for Stone Tower's climb. But before we enter the dungeon, I want to mention something about this layout here. Notice here we have 3 blocks next to each other into the entry point of Stone Tower Temple. Depending on what version of the game you play, these blocks are in different positions. I'm playing the North American release of Majora's Mask here in the N64, so this is how they look like in this version. In the original Japanese version of this game, the blocks for Stone Tower were moved around ever so slightly. We had 2 blocks on the top of the Stone Tower entrance, and then 1 block down below in the center. This is how it was originally designed, and then they moved things around for the international release, hence we have the 3 blocks here in the center for the N64 version we're playing this playthrough. But in the 3DS version, they changed things back to how they were with the original Japanese version of Majora's Mask. It doesn't matter what version of the 3DS game you're playing, what region it's in, these blocks are moved back to the original Japanese layout. Not exactly sure why they moved things back, but hey, it's something I should mention as it is a thing that was changed between versions of the game. But now, we're ready to make our way back in, and we could play the LG of Emptiness 3 more times, or we can play it 1 time here on the switch with the block that moves closest to us, and then play LG on the block itself that's in front of us now, and ride across, but I'll be doing things a little bit differently this time around. We showed 1 way of manipulating the LG puzzles here, now I'm going to be showing a different one. So, I'm grabbing me a fairy in a bottle because I want to have an item in a bottle in my hand. So in this case, a fairy is the best thing right now since it's right next to us. So I'm going to step on the switch once again to bring this block that is closest to us back over. Now with this block here, I'm going to go ahead and Z target, and I'm going to press my shield button, R, and the bottle button at the same time. So in this case, I'm going to press R and C right at the same time. If I do it right, now I have a glitch activated called Time Stop. As you notice, our HUD went away, so everything is now frozen in time. If I step off this switch, the switch now is back in its upright position, but the block here is still in its own position. Now if I press C up, that'll deactivate the glitch, and I can ride the block over. The fun little glitch to use, as it lets us just kind of travel around without even using the LG, which is good because I've played that song way too many times to count. So now with that done, let's head to our dungeon here. Welcome to Stone Tower Temple. Alrighty, moving in, we have a familiar face here, a dragonfly. We haven't seen these guys in a very long time. So, interesting to see these guys making a return. And we have bomb chews here as well. An enemy we have seen pretty recently, but now they're in a dungeon, so a little bit different. Gonna shoot him, and I'm also gonna shoot this eye switch that's above us. Hitting that, we'll get a treasure chest to spawn, and with that, looks like a pretty plain chest, and we know from our experience, plain chests in dungeons usually mean a stray fairy. Sure enough, that's a stray fairy. That's our first one. Go ahead and shoot that guy, get him out of here. And I'm gonna make my way back over to the area we came from and destroy this stuff, which gives us some magic, health, or rupees if we're full on health, and also some arrows, which is perfect. And looks like we're not going any further here because we got a giant block in our way. Nothing we can do about this right now because there's no light source around us, so we'll just have to leave. So we can't go to our right when we come to the dungeon, so I guess that means we must go somewhere else. So in this case, let's go over here to our left. Down here we got another bomb shoe. Gonna go ahead and blow him up, just get him out of my way. And I see we have a wall here we can go ahead and blow up. Don't know why I equipped my stone mask. What are you gonna do? Throw a rock at it? That won't really work out. This is an interesting thing though. We got a chest up in the ceiling. How the heck do you grab that? Can we use our hook shot maybe to get to it? Well, we can latch onto the chest, but we can't actually open it because it's too far out of reach, so that's unfortunate. But here we have ourselves some boxes here that we can go ahead and pick up, which is very convenient because we got blue switches here. We can put a box down on the blue switch and it'll stay pressed, so luckily for us, we can go ahead and use these boxes to actually skip playing the song that we have been playing way too many times in this area. This is an Elegy of Emptiness puzzle room, so we can skip using Elegy ever so slightly here, and that's great because I gotta be honest with you, I'm kind of tired of that song. Anything to skip it is nice. We still have to play it 2 times in here though, because we have 2 switches here that need to be pressed. One giant switch that will only be pressed down by the weight of a Goron. So unfortunately, we do have to play the song here with our Goron form, but hey, playing the Elegy of Emptiness here 2 times instead of what the game expects you to do 3 times is a much better way to solve this puzzle in my opinion. Go ahead and take off our mask here. And let's head to this final switch. Play Elegy on this. And as you can see, hitting all 4 switches will cause that gate to open, which gets us out of this room. So now let's play Elegy to keep that gate open. And now we can go ahead and make some progress. But before we leave here, I kind of want to talk about a weird change about this room. And there's a lot of weird changes about very specific rooms here in this dungeon for the 3DS version of the game. So, you know how we have these wooden boxes here in this version we can use to put down on these blue switches? Well, in the 3DS version, they removed these boxes for a pushable block instead. So, we have 1 block to work with now compared to 2 boxes, and it allows you to press down 1 switch, which really doesn't help you as much as you would think because you can only use 3 out of the 4 forms you have for the Elegy puzzles here. So you still have to play the Elegy of Emptiness with all 3 of the transformations that can push down switches. So this is a weird change. I'm not sure why they did, and honestly it's a change I don't really like because I like being able to skip one of the Elegy songs in the N64 version of the game. Another thing you can notice about this room is that all the switches here are raised slightly above the ground here, and that's simply because they made it so that there's only 1 of these 4 switches you can push that block on. All these others are raised up ever so slightly, so that block can't be pushed on these switches, so you're forced to play the Elegy on the other blue switches here in this room. I'm not really sure why they actually raised all these, including the Goron switch, because you can only use the block on 1 of these switches. You still need to play the Elegy with all 3 of the forms that can hold down the weight on these switches. It just seems like a weird decision. It's like a weird safety net for a thing that didn't need to have a safety net. You need to play the Elegy here 3 times instead of 2 times in the N64 version. And instead of wooden boxes, you have a pushable block that you can use on the first switch you see in the room. But that's pretty much the big difference here in this version of the game. Well, now with that room solved, we can go ahead and make our way across here into our next section. Kill this dragonfly. And get rid of him, so we can go ahead and leave the area. Didn't really need to kill him, but I just didn't want him in my way. Coming down here, we see we have ourselves another light block, which is not much to do, but if you look up, notice how there's a hole in the ceiling, and even Tattle wants to point this out. I thought this room was pretty dark, but now I get it. Don't tell me you still haven't figured it out. Oh, I get it. If I leave this room and go back to the area we came from, and in here, we get ourselves an explosive of some kind, so I'll just get myself the blast mask. Yeah, there you go. Make a hole in the ceiling. So, yeah. Blowing a hole in the ceiling is the solution to this puzzle, because now we have a beam of light shooting down from up above. Using this beam of light, we can go ahead and destroy the block here in front of us. But here, notice how we have a bunch of statues in the room. This is a very interesting thing because you would think, well, these statues, they look pretty harmless. I mean, I can grab this thing, move it around if I wanted. Although it's a little too heavy as a human. So instead, I would need to be a Goron to actually interact with these. And again, still a little too heavy and you can't really push it. So you would think, what's the point in these? Well, go over to one of the statues here in the lava, and you'll notice it's not a statue. In fact, this is a new enemy. This is an Armos. Shh! Don't touch it! Blow it up before it wakes up, please! Not too late on that one. I guess I'll just punch it to death. You can blow it up, or you can punch it. Either one will work. These guys can normally drop bombs, which is very convenient for us, but as Tattle said, we want to go ahead and blow these things up, so get out some explosives. In my case, I'm going to choose a bomb shoe so I don't get near these things. I'm just going to go ahead and let it rip. And there you go. Just instantly kills the thing. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and just walk through lava. I really don't care about taking the damage. And I'm just going to do a backflip here with my bomb shoe just to blow it up, because honestly, it's just faster. If you use a bomb on an Armos, it will die instantly. And killing all the Armos here in this room will spawn a treasure chest. But before we get the treasure chest spawned, let's get the one that's out in the field. This one here contains our map of the dungeon, so now we can see where we're going right away. But more importantly, we want to kill those Armos, because killing the Armos in this room will get this treasure chest to spawn, which has a small key. So we need to do this for progression's sake. One thing I should mention about this room is that in the 3DS version, they added 2 more Armos statues here to kill. So these Armos statues that are here next to the beam of light, in the N64 version, they're just statues. In the 3DS version, they're actual Armos enemies. So that's a weird difference. But now you have to kill 6 Armos in the 3DS version to get a key. You may have also noticed that the symbol on the light block here in this room looked different compared to in the N64 version. That's because here in the 3DS version, they changed the symbols on light blocks and the sun switches on walls. They changed it so that there's an eye now on those symbols. So when they are activated, the eye will shut, showing a visual representation of the switch itself being activated or the block fading away. It's an interesting design change between versions of the game, and I kind of compare it to the design change with the mirror shield in Ocarina of Time, from early versions of the game having a crescent moon symbol on it to later printings removing the crescent moon in favor of the crest of the Gerudo instead. So it's just an interesting little design change that I figured we mentioned while we're here. So before we leave, there's one more thing in this room worth noting. Up above, there is a hookshot target. So if we grab ourselves our hookshot here, we can go ahead and see what's up on this ledge. Coming up here, we got a treasure chest, and inside is a stray fairy. So definitely want to grab that before we leave this area. So now with the stray fairy, let's get out of here. Come back up to the first floor of the dungeon. We can go ahead and use our newly acquired small key to make our way to our next section here. So let's go ahead and do so. And here we got a bunch of water. So first things first, get rid of that Goron mask, because that's not going to do me any favors. Go ahead, swim here in the water. And let me see if I can make it out. No, I can't. Really wanted to make that jump because what they expect you to do is go over to this Dexy hand, and the Dexy hand will throw you up above. But with a well-timed Zora jump out of the water, you can actually just make it up here, but it's not the easiest thing to do. So what I like doing is getting in the corner, which will make that a lot easier. If you can get up here, your reward is a treasure chest containing a small key. So we definitely want this key. Here we see we have a crystal switch here behind a little fence, but at the end of the fence, there's a light block and there's no light around us, so we can't really do anything about that. So we'll remember that for later, and for now we'll just have to leave this area. Hammer's really desperate to grab me, but didn't give it a chance. I want to go ahead and sink all the way down to the bottom of this water here because there's a switch we can step on. Stepping on this will reveal a treasure chest, but there's a problem. The treasure chest is upside down. As we demonstrated earlier, we can't get treasure chests that are upside down, so unfortunately, that's something we'll have to do later. Here we can also see a light switch on the wall, which is kind of a weird thing too. We don't normally see those things underwater, but there's one. We can't interact with it though, so just keep that in mind. Again, something we'll have to maybe do something with later, if at all possible. Here we got a beam of light, and we have ourselves a light block here we can go ahead and destroy. But you can try all you want to destroy this thing from here, but your light won't reach. So instead, we have a new object here to interact with. Is this a mirror? This thing looks different from your everyday mirror. Yeah, in fact, it kind of looks like the same material made in the mirror shield. So what if we just line ourselves up with this mirror, use the light reflected from our mirror shield, and then let it soak it up so we can have another beam of light. Now we can go ahead and destroy the light block. So that's what these mirrors on the wall do. They will absorb your light being shined off of the mirror shield, which will let you extend that light somewhere else so you can repeat the process. So that's a very helpful thing, and that's a very excited looking bomb chute. I don't think I want to be here long. This is the compass. Neat. Let's run. I'm honestly surprised that worked in our favor. I thought we were going to die. I'm glad we didn't. Let's use that key we got earlier and make our way into our next room. Here we got ourselves a bunch of blocks in our way. Oh, that's weird. Are those all piled on top of one another? That was like one of the most least helpful comments Tattle's ever given us. That was a very normal thing to say. Well, as the Goron, you want to punch all these things away, because doing so will have a beam of light reveal from the ceiling. Here, I'm going to put on the stone mask. That way the bows in the room just ignore me, which is very convenient. But here, notice how we have all these different suns on the wall. We can go ahead and interact with them, but there's going to be a lot of duds here. The one you actually want to hit is the one here on the right side when you come in the room, and it's the leftmost sun. That one will actually do something. It will activate a treasure chest, which is a normal looking one, so from our experience, that normally means a stray fairy. Just to show off, if you do try to burn away these other suns, they don't really have anything to unlock. They're just kind of here to waste your time. So, don't even bother. Let's see what that treasure chest has inside. Oh, would you look at that? It's a stray fairy. Ooh, what a guest! Well, that's right, me, because I literally said it right before we opened the chest. Go ahead and shine our beam of light here on the mirror, but notice how I moved away from the mirror ever so slightly, and when I did that, the light went away. That shows that however long you hold a source of light on these mirrors, it will absorb that light for that long. So if you only have light on the mirror for half a second, then there's only going to be light on the mirror for half a second later. So keep that in mind. Now, what I recommend you do in this room is keep the stone mask on, because if I take it off right here, we have this guy spawning out of nowhere. On the Giron. Don't get too close to it. Smells like gunpowder. Oh, if it smells like gunpowder, that means it's an explosive. So yeah, don't bother with those enemies. They're not worth fighting. They're very dangerous and very prone to exploding. Go ahead and make our way over to the other light block here, which the only easy way of doing so is to use 2 mirrors this time around. So I'm going to just sit here on this leftmost mirror for a while, get that charged up, and now I'm going to do the same thing with the other mirror here in front of us. I'm going to charge this one up for as long as I did for the mirror we charged up beforehand. Just let that timer run out. Now with that done, make my way over to where the block is and get that out of here. I do like these mirror puzzles. They're very thought about puzzles, if you want to be honest. Like, they're just really cool ideas. It's not really something you see done in a lot of video games, so kudos to the developers for getting something like that to work. Especially in a game in the early 2000s. Something like that, back in that age, man, that's just really impressive stuff. Here I want to go ahead and use our Deckman Ford to make our way across this room, which, if we make our way over to a corner pocket here on the leftmost side, we get a stray fairy. But before we continue on flying around this whole room, I want to fall down here with our Goron form specifically, because that Deku will die down here. But here we have ourselves a switch that only the Goron can go ahead and activate. Using the Goron Pound to push this thing down, we have another switch that just comes available. It's engulfed in flames, and as you notice here, we gotta get moving, because if you are not fast enough, the switch is on fire. So that is a timed switch we activated with the Goron here. We want to go ahead and get over to that switch in the lava as fast as we can, because we want to hit it before the lava comes back. You don't have much time, so you really have to get moving. And it's honestly a hard switch to get to, because the best thing to do is to roll around as a Goron to get to the switch, because there's no other way you're going to make it in time. But if you do so, you get rid of some fire around the chest. Now I should mention, there is also a sun switch underneath it, which, okay, that's different. I don't know what that'll do, but for now, we'll just get out of here, because we can't really do anything with it. Voiding out here as a Deku does not get rid of that switch activation process, so that fire around the treasure chest, that will remain gone. So that's just a fast way to get back up here, which is very helpful. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and bank turn around with the Deku. Be very careful here not to get blown up by a bomb shoe, because that would really suck. And we barely made it over to our next refresh point here for the Deku flowers. If we didn't make that, oh, we would have been burning alive, which I don't want to do this time around. But there we go. We got ourselves a stray fairy, so we're good to go. Here we got some pots which would have health if we're low on health, but I'm not, so it's just money. Let's get out of here. Looks like we have our mini-boss here at Stone Tower. And he looks kind of familiar. In fact, if we wait for him to get close, we can check out his description here. This here is the Garo Master. You can't fight him like an ordinary Garo. Just dodge those swords. After he throws out an attack, you're able to attack him. What I like doing is actually rolling into the swords of the Garo. You have some iframes after you do a roll here in Majora's Mask, which means you won't take any damage. So I like rolling into these swords to actually tank a hit, which is a very easy yet effective way of fighting this Garo Master. There's a couple jump attacks and a spin attack to finish things off, and that's the boss. To think I could be defeated. Although my rival, you were spectacular. I shall take my bow by opening my heart and revealing my wisdom. If you shoot that which releases the sacred golden light into the blood-stained red emblem outside the temple, it shall rearrange things, in which the earth is born in the heavens and the moon is born on the earth. Do not forget these words. Die I shall, leaving no corpse. That is the law of us Garo. That was some interesting information that guy gave us, but more importantly, for defeating the Garo Master here in Stone Tower Temple, he gives us the item of the dungeon. Inside this chest are light arrows. Said to see the power up your arrows. The light of justice shall target evil. So, before we leave this area, I want to mention something about that specific Garo. He looked different compared to what we see here when we wear the Garo mask. The other Garos here in Akana Canyon look like how this mask does, wearing a brown robe. Instead, the Garo Master was wearing a purple one. That's the significant difference between the different types of Garos here. But in the 3DS version, they actually changed the Garo mask design for this reason. In the 3DS version, the mask for the Garos is actually based on the Garo Master instead. So in that version of the game, you wear a purple Garo mask, which is a pretty interesting difference. Another thing I should mention is how the light arrows work. So let's go ahead and make our way out of here so we can demonstrate how light arrows are going to work, because we have a couple different things we can do. First things first, I want to jump down here and I want to go ahead and look up, because here we see a crystal switch. Now there's a very easy way for us to hit this switch, and by doing so I need to get rid of all these pots, line myself up to this wall. I'm going to back up to where I saw this hookshot target on the ground. From here I'm going to let down a bomb shoe, let it right up the wall, and by doing so we activate that said crystal switch, which will spawn a treasure chest here in this room. When you head to open this chest, we'll see inside is a stray fairy. So that was definitely worth doing, because that gives us something helpful. Go ahead and get out of here with a hookshot back up to the top. And coming up here, we want to go ahead and turn around. And we notice here we have a returning friend, although he has a little bit of an upgrade this time around. A hip loop, but this time he's wearing a mask. So, as the title says, we can't do something unless that mask is out of here. So, let's just use the hookshot to pull it off. And now we can use the hookshot just to kill the guy in 2 shots. That's pretty convenient. Let's get out of here at this point. I want to go ahead and show off these light arrows, and the best way to do so is to fight another mini-boss here of Stone Tower. This thing is an Igor. Simply attacking it is no good. I say you should pay attention to the subtle changes in its eye. Want to go ahead and get ourselves some light arrows here because, as Tattle said, we want to watch its eye. Using light arrows, we can go ahead and shoot it into the eye, and that will do a lot of damage. In fact, 2 light arrows will kill the Zygor. So just use light arrows. It's a very easy and fast way to get rid of this boss. Killing it will reveal a treasure chest, and we can kind of tell what this one's going to be. It's going to be a stray fairy, isn't it? Yeah, it's a stray fairy. I figured as much. But with that, we want to go ahead and enter this door, and notice how we're back to the entry point of Stone Tower Temple. We've looped. So now there's not very much else to do, except we can use our new light arrows to hit this sun switch. Light arrows will activate sun switches in the same way your mirror shield will. This one causes the treasure chest to spawn above us, which doesn't really help us in any way right now, but again, it's really something we'll have to keep in mind for later. But we do have an idea of what we could do with it, because we were told about an interesting hint from that Gyro Master. He said if we use the sacred light from an arrow, which in this case are light arrows, to shoot a ruby switch, it will flip around things, making the heavens the earth. So it's a little bit of a cryptic message, but if you interpret it, it does mean if you use the light arrows here with the dungeon, something interesting will happen. So we'll keep that in mind here, but for now, I want to make my way back over into the room where we fought the Igor. This time around, we're on the outside portion of the room, because I want to go ahead and get back up to the top here, which, again, really hard to do. Not really a fan of this, but we made it up. I want to go ahead and use our light arrows to destroy this light block here. Light arrows, again, can do the same thing as your mirror shield, so in this case, we can get rid of that block. Now, there's no easy way to really get over here. It's the same deal as you kind of have to jump up with the Zora. It kind of sucks that there's just not an easy to grab ledge. But I should mention that this room was once again changed in the 3DS version. A lot of subtle changes with all the beginning rooms here of this dungeon. In the 3DS version, they did add ledges to the area, so now you have an easier way to get up as a Zora. But also, to get the key in the room, you actually need to hit a switch this time around for the chest to spawn. It's a weird change. Don't know why you need to have an extra puzzle to get to the key here, but you kinda did. Here, I want to go ahead and open this chest, which will reveal a stray fairy, making 9 fairies in total. At this point, we pretty much have done everything. There's really nothing else to do but just to hit that one sun switch back in the room before the Gyro Master. But I should mention that that switch is really only good for getting that other stray fairy in the room. So you still have to do the whole Goron puzzle here in the room where you deactivate the flame around a switch here in lava, hit that said switch, and now you can get rid of fire around the treasure chest, which contains a stray fairy. At this point, you can go ahead and use your newly acquired light arrows to shoot the sun switch that's right above that switch in the lava. Doing so will activate a ladder here in the room, which allows you to climb to the very top where that stray fairy and Gyro Master room is located. So, using the sun switch, you can skip the entire Deku Flower flying sequence in this said room, but it's honestly not really that useful to us because in order to get this shortcut, we needed to beat the Gyro Master and get light arrows. So this is useful for reoccurring trips to Stone Tower, but this sun switch on your first visit here, honestly, it's entirely useless. But now with that little diversion out of the way, we're pretty much done here in Stone Tower for the moment. There's not very much else we can do, so for now, we're going to go ahead, pull out our ocarina, and warp back to the beginning using the Song of Soaring. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and end things here. Next time on Let's Play Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, we'll go ahead and use our newly acquired light arrows to see if we can explore this dungeon in a new way. I'll see you guys next time.